Let's then move on to personification. So personification is when we add human characteristics to something that is either not alive or is alive but lacks human traits. So if we're talking about going through the woods and maybe a tree whispers something to you, or if we look at something like a dishwasher, how could a dishwasher have human characteristics? Well, we could say I replaced my fridge and have paid a lot of attention to this new fridge, and the dishwasher was jealous, so it decided to break. And we're giving these human traits to inanimate objects, objects that aren't alive, and we're kind of making them like they have minds and thoughts and actions of their own. We can also do the same thing with things that are alive but don't have human traits. So if we have talking dogs, or if we have maybe a horse that's paying its taxes, something like that, we are creating this personification within these characters or these animals or these inanimate objects. We also have more overt uses of personification, more obvious uses. Let's look at an example here. We're going to look at this poem, Because I Could Not Stop for Death. And in this case, death itself is being personified. Death is being given human qualities here. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove. He knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun, or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer, my gown, my tuppet, only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. What is going on in this poem? It helps to see the personification that death is a person. So I could not stop for death. Maybe this is somebody that they couldn't think about dying or that it scared them to think about dying. So death actually stops and picks them up and says, let's go for a ride. We see that in the carriage, we have death, we have the person, we have immortality. So maybe this is somebody that is worried about death, worried about being no more. He knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure. So I'd kind of done all the things that I hoped to accomplish in life, and I put those away. I didn't bring those up, but things that I still want to do because death was being so nice to me. So again, it's kind of this weird construct of death of being an actual person in the carriage. And because death has a purpose and he's being so kind and so nice, I don't want to bring up, how I'm not ready to die yet. We passed that school where the children strove at recess. Uh, we add some symbolism here. Those children could represent her own childhood playing the fields of gazing grain. So the grain is growing, it's not harvested yet. But then we get this setting sun. So the setting sun is that symbol of maybe the end of life. And then, or rather, he passed us. So it seems like life is passing us before we know it. The dews drew quivering and chill for only gossamer, my gown, my tippet, only tulle. So she's in her nightgown. She's barely clothed. It's like, I'm ready for bed. I'm accepting death now. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. And I think at this point, death is showing the author, this is what it is. This is what death is like. You get that swelling of a ground. We think of those graveyards in which somebody has newly been buried, and we see that mound. So the roof was scarcely visible. See that mound that's rising above the grass, the cornice in the ground. So maybe we get this lack of hope, and we see a different side of death here. Why is he showing me this? But then we get redemption at the end. We see that the horses' heads were showing towards eternity. So as the carriage ride goes on, maybe death steps out and she's just left with the immortality in the carriage. So we get these two different characters that are personified, and we get kind of an attitude towards death here. So that personification is nice because it helps us see death as a person or as somebody trying to serve a purpose or a job in order to lead, in this case, maybe to the afterlife. So as you look at the other poems that I want you to read for this week, look for symbols, look for personification, see how they help develop a message, your own personal message as to what the poem means.